Welcome to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast, your weekly update of business news and issues from around Cumbria. Find out how we support new business and help existing businesses to grow and flourish at cumbriachamber.co.uk. Now here's the Chamber's Business Engagement Manager, Julian Whittle, with this week's episode.
Hello, I'm here with Bruno, Innovation Manager at the supermarket chain Booths, and with Eva Foran, the Supply Chain Development Manager at Cumbria Business Growth Hub. And we're going to be talking about how food and drink businesses can get their products onto Booths shelves. Matt, Booths is a fantastic family business. It dates all the way back to 1847, I think. 28 stores, some of them in Cumbria and the rest across Lancashire, Greater Manchester, Cheshire and Yorkshire. When it comes to food and drink, you actually have a deliberate policy of sourcing locally, don't you?
Yes, we do. I think what we try to do at Booths is we try to find the very best products that we can within the market that our customers would like to buy from us. I think if those products happen to be and are locally sourced, that's fantastic. Both for Booths and customers and those local suppliers as well. So we are always looking for the very best, and if we can get them products from the county of Cumbria, that is fantastic.
So much the better, as it were, yeah. So I gather Booths has a 4-stage procurement process, so let's talk through that. The first is getting retail ready. What does that involve?
So getting retail ready is really considering everything that you would be required to do as a supplier or producer to ensure that your products are ready to go on the shelves of a Booth supermarket. So that might be anything from product and packaging, so from ingredients, nutritional information, barcode, and the right kind of packaging and labelling for a retail environment.
Yeah.
It also looks at technical elements, so what systems you have in place and any other, say, quality assurance bodies that you may be linked to, such as SALSA or BRC. And then within that, there's also a number of questions around the ability to scale your production to supply more stores, if indeed that was something that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So basically what it's asking our suppliers is, are you ready for these certain elements when launching a new product? And I think if the answer is yes, and in some cases if the answer is no, we can help support in terms of getting to a yes. Getting to it, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So if a business does meet the requirements on the retail ready checklist, the next stage is that they can formally apply to Booths to become a supplier. How do they go about that?
I think there's a couple of ways of being able to do that. I think the first one is we have an online application website, which is supply.booths.co.uk. And what suppliers can do is, or potential suppliers, is go online, have a look at a bit about Booths and our background, how we do business, see some case studies, and actually just apply formally along that application website. The other ways are meeting buyers through trade shows and trade events like today here at the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce event, and also as simple as just picking up the phone, ringing our office number and being put through to the relevant department.
Well, the next stage is a meet the buyer event, isn't it, where you invite potential suppliers along. Tell me about these events. Where are they held? How often do you hold them? And what actually goes on?
So we hold the events at the central office in Preston. And these events we hold every 3 months or once a quarter.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is it's a fabulous day that's kind of set aside where new suppliers, producers get the opportunity to showcase their products and have a chance to meet with the relevant buyer that would be responsible for buying their products. It creates a fabulous buzz around the office. This isn't just about getting the right products. It's about getting people enthused about local produce, great tasting products. And it certainly gives a buzz across the whole office. So whether that's somebody in accounts that's walking past and seeing it, just the enthusiasm from the buyers and the producers have seen such great products, things that we've never seen before, new things to market, innovations, new concepts even. It's just a great day to spend 15 minutes really learning about, as well as the product, learning about the producers themselves and the growers themselves. So kind of understanding a bit about their background, what made them produce and or decide to grow a particular product. And we're as interested in that as we are the product themselves, because it gives us an opportunity to talk to our customers, if successful, about just how great some of these products are.
And what happens after the event? Because presumably you notify the suppliers whether they've been successful or not.
Yeah, so what happens is once we've met with the suppliers, we then there can be different outcomes. I think the first thing we go through is we try a lot of the products. So we spend time kind of talking them through, trying, deliberating around them, and then once we find a product that we really like, and there are a lot, so the days are very successful, we then it can be a few different outcomes. If the product hasn't been successful, it's not something the buyer is looking to progress with, we would contact the supplier generally within 7 days of the meeting to let them know the reasons why they've not necessarily been successful. Sometimes it can be a maybe outcome, which is maybe some bits and pieces that they need to do around packaging, the retail ready checklist, that maybe needs more work, and we'll help and support them to become a yes. And then what we also do is we need to look at current ranges and what we've got on our shelves, and see how these new products will fit into that new area. We let suppliers know via email. We do contact suppliers and talk things through, so where we can give support and recommendations to them. Then there's also obviously the yes, which is the ones that we love to give and like to progress. And then this would lead to probably a further meeting in more detail to kind of really understand the product, and more than likely a visit as well. So we'd come out and understand what this great producer or manufacturer is doing on their premises. So yes, all very exciting. Then we'd ask them to look at obviously the relevant paperwork, but this really is about saying that yes and then moving it on to the next step and being able to see it in our shops.
I mean, it sounds a really clear and straightforward process, but what I was wondering is, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges faced by potential suppliers? So what do they struggle with, and what are the most common reasons for rejecting a would-be supplier?
So I think one of the biggest challenges that we certainly have within our is space is one. So the amount of room we have to sell products within our stores, we have a finite amount of shelving. So what we've got to do is look at what makes that product stand out and what makes that product different, because within the retail environment, normally a product has to come out for another product to come in. So that's one of the challenges, and then it's time to get something to fruition and onto the shop floor. I think the other thing is probably around just getting suppliers to get to a level that that both they and us are comfortable with, making sure that the product is safe and legal on our shelves. So that can take a while. I think even though some suppliers are retail ready, sometimes they're not quite yet at the stage that we would require them to be for our shelves. And again, we would work with them to overcome some of them problems if it was the right product to go on our shelves.
Eva, I'd like to bring you in now. Mm-hmm. How can Cumbria Business Growth Hub help businesses overcome these hurdles and become a supplier to Booths?
Right, as Matt had talked about the 4-stage procurement process, we can support businesses like the businesses that turn up today through each of these stages by providing one-to-one practical support through our team of professional business advisors. For example, we've recently held a food labeling workshop, so businesses can then attend those workshops and get some, advice and ideas on how to label their products. We had trading standards here today who can give advice on, how to label your products and what's happening with Brexit. So we've got all that support available, but we also got a host of online interactive assets on our supply chain portal which gives us information on what the other businesses are looking for and how to supply to not just booths, to different organisations in Cumbria.
So that's on the Growth Hub's website, www.cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk, and then click on the supply chain.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And again, with a lot of smaller businesses, funding is always an issue. So we have access to sources of funding, including subsidies and external fundings. We work with external bodies, and we can signpost businesses to other sources of funding as well. And again, with business, we talked about trading standards earlier. We work with external partners to always signpost where we can't support the business. We signpost them to other external support that can give them the relevant advice. And also with the supply chain club that we have now, we hold events like this that put the buyers in front of the potential suppliers, and that's a great opportunity to network, a great opportunity to collaborate with other businesses as well.
Okay, you mentioned the website, and Matt, it's worth looking at Booth's website. I think you mentioned this earlier too, isn't it? supply.booths.co.uk. What information have you got on there?
Yeah, so it's quite a straightforward website, and basically on there there's the retail ready checklist that we've already mentioned. There's information on how to calculate margins. There's a number of frequently asked questions, so questions that you may want to know in advance of the event, how to acquire barcodes, for example, and there's also some, I believe, some case studies on there, so where we've seen businesses come through our Meet the Buyer events. Well,
tell me, that's something to explore, actually. Tell me about some of the businesses that have worked with Booths and really benefited from the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number that have benefited, I think, and grown with us over the last few years. There's one who are a local bakery. They were making bakery cakes in their kind of home environment, really, and came in and approached us. And they weren't necessarily completely retail ready, but what we saw in this in the lady that runs the business and the product was just a fabulous tasting product. And it was something that we knew we had to have on our shelves. So what we did is we worked alongside the producer to basically get them to a stage where they were retail ready. They went into Booth's brand, so we took them as an own label supplier. And kind of within 18 months, we'd gone from being a product that we tried that somebody was making in their kitchen to a unique food manufacturing premises, and now they're supplying approximately 15 lines into our 28 stores. Right. So great example of where small businesses can certainly flourish and do well.
A final question for you, Matt, because I have spoken to a number of smaller food and drink businesses who actually are a bit nervous about approaching supermarkets because, firstly, they think the procurement process is going to be complicated. And then they've got another concern that if they are successful, they might become too reliant on one big customer. So what's your message to businesses like that?
I think my message is come and talk to us. Whether you are starting out or whether it's a business that's established, it can seem a challenge. I think what we are, we're quite open. We run the Meet the Buyer events, and I think it's talking to some of these businesses, and whilst there are steps in there, they're not complicated. I think just a way of talking people through the process is certainly a way of kind of calming their nerves. I think we are relatively small in the supermarket world, and I think that makes approaching us easier. As I say, we hold these events once a quarter, and we are regularly out looking around producers and suppliers within the market. So I would say, don't be nervous. You know your product inside out. You know how fabulous it tastes. So please come and speak to us, because we, providing we are retail ready and can put it on our shelves, we'd love to hear from you. I think in terms of being too reliant on one big customer, I think that's obviously for each individual business to kind of pick up with. But I think the message is certainly from us, if they're a small producer, start small and grow organically from our perspective. So maybe start with one store or 2 stores, and then as you progress and as the business, and should the business want to progress to more than 2 stores, then we can support the business and help them on that journey.
I mean, one thing, I was listening to your presentation earlier to the supply chain event, and one of the things you were talking about was, if you could call it the ethos of Booths, that you actually build relationships with the suppliers. It's not purely a sort of transactional thing that's going on, and maybe that sets you apart from some of the bigger supermarkets. Yeah,
so the building of relationships is really important to us, because it's about a journey for both the supplier or producer and ourselves, and wants to make the products really work on our supermarket shelves. We want these products to succeed, and the relationship with the growers and producers, they've created these products, they've grown these products, so they know them better than anybody else, and a collaborative way of working together to help, whether that's the number of stores that they go into or providing some technical support. That relationship will help them grow, and it benefits the customer, it benefits obviously us as a retailer, and benefits the supplier themselves. So building relationships with these companies are absolutely integral to how we put products on our shelves.
Okay, thanks. That's brilliant. Thanks very much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast. You can find out more about how we're supporting Cumbrian businesses at cumbriachamber.co.uk and cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and we'll have another episode for you next week.